If you're here, then you probably believe in ghosts. But do you believe in demons? If so, do you believe in the type depicted in movies like The Exorcist, where they possess people, make them levitate, and puke out split pea soup? Or do you believe they're more like the Supernatural TV show depicts them, where they can possess someone for God knows how long without anyone seeing the difference? We're going to look at two very different stories today involving demons. The first being about the very popular Zozo, who is said to stalk Ouija boards, waiting patiently on the other side for someone who uses them to try to connect with a loved one who has passed away, or for a group of friends who just want to see if there really is an afterlife, and then he causes complete chaos. The second story being of a school teacher who went to extreme measures in order to free her students from demons that she believed were possessing them. Are you ready? Then take my hand, hold it tight, and let's walk into the darkness together. Zozo probably doesn't need much of an introduction with those of us who are occult enthusiasts, but I'll still give you a quick explanation in case you've never heard of him. Zozo is a demon best known for appearing in Ouija board sessions. He pretends to be a friendly spirit, sometimes even a relative, and once he has you fooled, he goes on to abruptly begin to move the planchette in a figure 8 over and over again, something that some say is a way for spirits to enter the mortal realm. He then begins to drag the planchette repeatedly back and forth between the letters Z and O to spell out his name. Zozo has become so popular that in 2012 there was a movie made about him called I Am Zozo, and some people even claim to know him by other names such as Zaza, Mama, Oz, Zo, Za, and Abacus. So it's hard to tell exactly how popular he truly is, but regardless of the name he uses, he usually ends up causing complete chaos, and even closing the session, you'll end up with a negative attachment and usually paranormal activity once you've met him. But by no means is Zozo a new demon. In fact, some say that he might even be Pazuzu, a Mesopotamian wind god that was said to be the ruler of all demons, and stories of demons with the name Zozo can be traced back to over 200 years. In 1816, there was a book by a man named Jacques-Auguste Simon Colin de Planzy called Le Dictionnaire Infernal, in which he tells the story of a young girl that was supposedly possessed by 3 different demons named Mimi, Capulet, and yes, Zozo. He said that this girl would walk on all fours, sometimes backwards, sometimes forwards, and that sometimes she'd even walk on her hands with her legs up in the air. She blamed the behavior on the demons that were possessing her, and that caused enough of an uproar that a priest decided to exorcise her. The story says that when the priest exorcised Zozo, as he left the girl's body, every window in the room shattered. Now, de Plancy was a skeptic, and he warns us that this girl had been previously punished for falsely claiming that she was possessed by demons, and that he didn't believe her at all. But what are the odds that this girl comes up with the name of a demon that has become popular nowadays, and what explains the shattering of those windows? But let's talk about the story that really brought Zozo to the limelight. On March 24, 2009, a man named Darren Evans wrote a story in a forum called True Ghost Tales. In it, he says, and I will be quoting him through most of this, "During my experiences with Ouija boards, one particular spirit always seems compelled to make its presence known. Its name is Zozo. Today, I refuse to even pronounce its name, as I believe the mere pronunciation of it can cause it to manifest itself. Too many times to count, it has at first pretended to be a nice spirit or pretended to be whomever I was trying to contact. But eventually it showed its true self, cussing me, threatening me, and others present in the room. Once it actually cussed me using what looked like Latin or Hebrew and using biblical terminology. I was genuinely fascinated and startled by how many times Zozo showed up, even in many different Ouija boards. It always wound up being very nasty and commented freely about how it wanted to possess my girlfriends and take them to paradise. When asked where paradise was, It's spelled Hell. One time, after Zozo was being extremely evil, I walked into my bathroom only to see my 1-year-old daughter about to drown. Her mother had left her alone in the tub just for a second, and somehow the water got turned on and was overflowing. Instinctively, she had her face tilted up and was seconds from going under when I grabbed her from the water. The next day, she was hospitalized for some weird internal infection and was put in isolation for 14 days straight as doctors tried to diagnose the illness. Darren said that at that time is when he began to suspect a demon attack. He also says that his girlfriend took on a sort of trance-like state and that she went from being very sweet to being withdrawn and uncaring. He claims that Zozo said before this that it was going to possess her and eat her soul. The paranormal experiences don't stop with just them, though. Darren also claims that when guests would spend the night in our house, they would claim that they had frightening voices coming from inside the walls. Objects would be thrown across the room, and spiders seemed to come from nowhere. My girlfriend's brother, whom lived with us, complained that he couldn't sleep at night because the conversations were so loud that he simply could not rest. He believed in ghosts, and though he wasn't afraid of them, he said that it definitely felt demonic. Darren also explained that lights would come off and on by themselves. Doors would open and unlock themselves. One night in our bedroom, a vicious laughter emanated from thin air, and to this day I cannot explain the terror in that laughter. One night I was awakened by what felt like hands on my throat, choking me. I couldn't breathe. I could not scream. After about 30 seconds, it released its grip and I gasped for air. The same thing happened to my girlfriend the next night. Another night, me and her brother were standing just outside the back porch sliding glass door when we were talking about a supposed curse of their family. I abruptly exclaimed, "I rebuke this curse in the name of Jesus Christ." I no longer finished saying these exact words when a deafening sound and vibration struck the entire house with such an alarming boom that the neighbors came over to ask if I had heard something strange. I knew it wasn't our imagination. I got out the ladder to see what had landed on top of the house, only to find nothing. Things settled down after that, and to this day I believe that whatever made that noise also caused the disturbance to go away for a while. Even after breaking up with his girlfriend and moving, Darren claimed that Zozo still managed to find him. My girlfriend broke up with me and I met someone online in Michigan, where I moved up to be with her. She didn't believe in spirits, and although I knew better, I decided to make her a believer as well. Living in a very small town in Marshall, Michigan, there were no stores that sold Ouija boards, so I downloaded one from the internet. I printed it out, and to my horror, Zozo returned. It said it came from cyberspace, and when I asked it where it lived, it spelled skull necklace. We didn't think much of this until I asked it again where it was, this time spelling mirror. There was only one mirror in the bedroom where we were crouched on the floor, and I heard a scream coming from her 7-year-old niece who was watching us with another young friend. We looked up at the mirror and saw the skull necklace swaying back and forth with glowing eyes looking down at us. My new girlfriend's son hung the necklace on one of the posts of the waterbed hours before I had downloaded the paper board. We almost jumped out of our skins, and although 3 feet of fresh snow had fallen that night, we all found ourselves in the front yard not knowing what to do, scared and frozen in terror. My girlfriend was so fascinated, she drove 40 miles to purchase a new glow-in-the-dark Ouija board, much to my dismay. The next night, we had another session in the same room. Zozo immediately came forth, and even without me being a participant, my girlfriend's nieces were using the planchette, and I would secretly write down a color into a small piece of paper, then crumple it up where no one could see. I asked the young girls to ask the board if it knew which color I had written down. It quickly said, "Yes, blue." I remember chills coursing up and down my spine as I threw the waddled up paper to my girlfriend. Her eyes widened as she read the written color, blue. We then tried the same thing with shapes and words, and every time the board knew. One night we asked the board if the spirit would show itself. It said yes and told me to turn out the lights and take a picture of the necklace above the board. I did just that, and what turned out is eerie to say the least. On the upper left-hand corner of the picture, you can plainly see winged skeletons flying about, and they are of the exact same weird shape of this skateboarder's skeleton necklace. Towards the middle, you can make out hideous faces. I have seen at least 4 evil faces in the picture. Darren claims he read about 20 other similar stories online who've had contact with Zozo. However, I personally couldn't find any that predated his. Since his was shared though, Zozo has blown up on the internet with people from all over wanting to tell their story and share their experiences. Some even claim to have had contact with him through mobile apps, EVP sessions, hypnosis, and even through automatic writing. If you'd like to see another video with some of these stories, you can comment it below and I'll try to compile them into a future video. But yeah, Darren did go on to write a book about his encounters in 2016 called The Zozo Phenomenon. He also appeared in the TV show Ghost Adventures. Now, story number 2 gets a little weird. In 2012, a 35-year-old literacy teacher in St. Petersburg, Florida, by the name of Daniel Harkins, had been working at a community center called the Lealman Asian Neighborhood Family Center for the past 4 years. She was liked by everyone, including her students, and had recently become interested in religion. Some would even describe her interests as extreme religious beliefs, after having a rough divorce and dealing with an even rougher custody battle over her 2 kids, a 4-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. Now, however extreme those beliefs had been, they didn't seem to cause any sort of concern to anyone around her at the time. So, on Saturday, June 9th, 2012, Danielle reached out to 7 former students of hers and asked them to meet up at dusk in a park that's by a pier. Once the 6 boys and 1 girl that made up the group of students had shown up, Danielle lit a fire. She got the students to dance around the fire and chant, though no one knows exactly what they had been chanting. After some time doing this, she informed the students that they all had demons inside of them and that they needed to rid themselves of them by nightfall. She then explained to her students how they'd have to do this, which according to her would have to be by cutting their skin open so that the demons could be expelled from their bodies through the wounds, and then cauterizing these wounds to prevent them from trying to get back in. Her students, who seemed to be extremely loyal to Danielle, began the ritual. All of them were completely willing to do this to be free of the demons. Danielle came equipped with a lighter to help them cauterize the wounds, but the little lighter's flame kept going out with the wind while she was trying to use it to cauterize the wound of one of the boys' hands, and Danielle had to improvise. So she quickly pulled out a bottle of perfume that she carried in her purse and doused the boy's hand with it and lit it on fire to cauterize it. She then picked up a piece of broken bottle that was on the ground and cut one of the other boys on the neck. She then used the fire she made to heat up a key which she pressed against the wound to burn and cauterize it. It's unclear what happened with the other 5 students, but eventually the ritual ended and everyone went home. That would have probably been the end of the story if not for a text that one of the boys sent a friend of his. The text explained that he was sort of freaked out about what they had done, and he gave his friend a quick, generalized explanation of what had gone on that night. His friend became worried and told the parents of the boy, who then called the cops. Danielle was arrested and charged with 2 counts of child abuse and 1 count aggravated child abuse, and her bond was set at $55,000. Danielle ultimately served 6 months in jail. But the strangest thing here is that none of the students who participated in the ritual are willing to talk about that night or anything else that Danielle might have said or done. Not to their parents, not to the police, not to their friends. They remain as loyal to Danielle as ever, even though the boy whose hand she lit on fire received second-degree burns thanks to her. That's it. Comment below on what you thought about these two stories. Have you ever come in contact with Zozo? Do you think Danielle truly did see demons that had been possessing her students, or was it her own demons that she was fighting? Don't forget that you can help my small channel grow by sharing it with others who love scary stories too. And please remember to like if you liked and subscribe if you want more. See you next time.